Monday. We are working with school districts and teachers across the country to increase student awareness and interest in computer science, and we thank you for taking time today to be here with us. I'm Toni Backstrom with Learning Blade. Also with me is our computer science expert, Jennifer, and we also have one of our teachers from Arkansas who is with us, Bethany, who will also share some of her experience as we get ready to help kick off this great week of focus and have a week of lessons that are available and ready in case you didn't get that done yet. Maybe we can save you some time and energy in needing to do that. While we're getting ready and doing all of this, it's possible that we'll have some folks who are either with us or will be joining us on the recording that might be new to Learning Blade or might be on wanting to learn a little more about it. So we're going to take a couple minutes just to review Learning Blade and what it is. It is a supplemental resource for students in grades 5 through early high school to explore technologies and careers in STEM and computer science. The lessons in Learning Blade are aligned to every state's standards. So it's a resource that every teacher can use in one way or another. The content's organized into missions that students complete with 5 technologies and 5 careers for each mission. Within that exploration of the technologies and careers, there are multiple lessons connected back to the state standards for math, science, and also for English and social studies. Each of these missions has an entire toolbox of lessons and activities. There are over 400 online lessons that are tied to those academic standards. There are embedded mission challenges that are project-based learning lessons to provide hands-on learning. And all of those use common items that you'll likely already have access to or already in your classroom. Pencils, pennies, rulers, paper. So there isn't a lot of expensive or unique items that are needed. We utilize the 5-step creative thinking process because we want students to solve complex problems rather than just regurgitating information. We want them to be innovative in their thinking. And so we use that process to help them along. We also foster in Learning Blade that connection between home and school by providing handouts that are ready to go that help promote table talk between students and their families at home. There are additional exercises and experiments that they can complete and ideas for how they might do some additional research and looking up information at home and with their parents. We also know that in order to be something, students need to be able to see themselves in that. And so there are career videos that are like a day in the life of, to show them a real life experience of being in one of those careers. We know that schools often now have 3D printers, and sometimes not everyone is comfortable or knows exactly how to use those. So we've incorporated step-by-step lessons in order to use those 3D printers in very innovative ways. We also have kind of a Minecraft type origami paper figure piece that connects back to those careers and technologies. In addition, we also have an Intro to Coding 20-hour course that Jenny's going to talk a whole lot more about very shortly. I wanted to give you an example of those missions. So here is one, Hack Attack, where a school's website and social media is hacked, and it needs to be restored using the 5 careers in green, those teammates on the right of your screen, and the technologies that they'll use, or the tools in orange. Each of the missions utilize 5 tools and 5 careers, those teammates and tools. Another example is flu outbreak. How do health and IT professionals use data, GIS, and social media analysis to predict flu outbreaks? Each of these missions takes 8 to 10 hours to complete, and there's also an express option. That express option takes an hour and a half to 2 hours. You can note the lessons that are included in that express mission by the orange and the green dots on the specific lessons that are in that shortened, condensed version, although students always have access and the option to do the full mission as well. And we do want to give you an idea of all of the missions that are available. Here are the 12 in total that are organized around a wide range of STEM career clusters: biomedicine, construction, IT, manufacturing, agriculture, and of course, computer science. These engage students in real world situations to help them recognize and make the connection that what they are learning in school really does connect to the real world. I don't know about you, but I heard when my kids were younger, why do I have to study this? Why am I learning this? I'm never going to use this again. Through Learning Blade, they actually learn and make the connection that they will use this again. And here's exactly how they can do that. The missions provide that opportunity for students to feel they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And implementation is flexible, intuitive, and easy. 1, 2, 3. Training's included and is on demand. So, quick rundown of what Learning Blade is. And now, while I mentioned that 20-hour coding course a minute ago, it's a perfect focus for CS Ed Week. And I'm going to turn it over to that computer science expert of ours, Jenny, to take us a little deeper.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony. And I'm also going to be calling on Bethany to share a lot about her experience so you guys can hear from a teacher perspective about Intro to Coding. But just to give you a brief introduction, Intro to Coding was originally designed for Arkansas's coding block requirement. They've been kind of the leaders in computer science requirements at the state level, and there's many states who have followed behind and have similar requirements and similar standards. And so we meet a lot of those needs through our Intro to Coding course, which is very different than the rest of the missions. If you're going to do the Hack Attack mission as an example, it doesn't matter the order that you go in, but in Intro to Coding, the reason why we call it a course is because we have a pacing guide that tells you at what point to do the online lessons, what point to do the offline lessons. It follows this progression of increasing difficulty where we're starting students off with basic foundational knowledge of how a computer works, hardware, software, binary. And then as they progress through, they learn about all the different ways that you can use programming to code a robot, to create an app, a game, websites, cybersecurity. So it's targeted for middle school or early high school, kind of that introductory level of this initial exposure of all the kinds of things you can do with computer science. And in addition to the online lessons and offline activities that we have for you in Learning Blade, we link you to other free platforms out there to practice the actual coding piece. And then in Learning Blade, we give you as a teacher lesson plans that will show you how to use these platforms, what kind of projects you can make with your students, how you can communicate to your students, how the code works. I was a math teacher that was sort of voluntold to teach computer science, and I just love how easy all of these lessons make it for teachers who are just trying to figure it out along with their students. So I'm going to pass it over to Bethany now, who is one of the key code teachers in Arkansas who has used the Intro to Coding course, and she's going to tell you what she likes about it and what her experience has been.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. I'm excited to be here and get to share my experience with everyone. So just a little bit about my background so you kind of know where I'm coming from. I'm currently in a district of about 10,000 students here in Central Arkansas. I'm one of 4 keyboarding and coding teachers in the district. But before that, I was in a small rural district of only about 800 students. So, I have also taught science, math, social studies, writing. But in my last district, I was the entire junior high business department. Both of the schools that I've been in are Title I schools. My current district is very diverse, but Learning Blade has been fantastic for me in both settings for the Intro to Coding piece. I first began using Learning Blade when I taught career development. I used it as an enrichment for my students to give them more exposure to the STEM careers. But then when Learning Blade introduced the Intro to Coding, I jumped on it immediately, and I'm so glad that I did. It has just made my coding block a lot more enriched and a lot easier for me as a teacher. So I'm just going to kind of share a little bit about why I love Learning Blade and then how I use it, so you can see both sides on that. First and foremost, Learning Blade is free for me in my state. And in districts where you don't have that huge budget for computer science, especially at the lower level, because I teach 7th grade coding, it has made it very easy to get admin support since it's free for me. So I love that. I also love that there are no downloads. It's a web-based, and I don't have to download anything in my computer lab. My tech department loves that there are no downloads on there, and we just log in and we can go from there. The lessons, the plans, they're outlined, they're easily available. It tells you about how long each lesson is going to take, so that helps with your planning. When I first started using Learning Blade, I was teaching 5 different preps because, again, I was the only business teacher. And so you can imagine how time-consuming lesson planning gets when you've got that much. But also, we didn't have a set curriculum. So I was piecing things together with code.org and Teachers Pay Teachers and just creating my own resources. Learning Blade solved that problem for me. I have everything that I need right here in Learning Blade for my coding block. So I love that. Another reason that I love Learning Blade is it is so easy to post assignments and links in with Google Classroom or with Schoology, whatever that you use. My previous district, we were a Google Classroom school. Here we use Schoology, and it has worked extremely well for either one of those, either of the learning management systems. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about grades further on how you can grade your work and how easy it is to do that. But I do love the variety of the assignments, the online, the offline, because even though this is computer science, these kids have, grown up on technology. They need a break from it every now and then. And so I love that there are some offline activities as well. There's group activities, there are individual activities. All the activities are very easy for me to modify however I need to for them, for the kids. And finally, I love that it is cross-curricular. So it's got science, it's got math in there, it has literacy, it has social studies. I can tie all of that into computer science and show kids how everything connects. So that has been great to help them see why they need computer science and how they can use it too. So about how I use Learning Blade. So we use ClassLink. So my rosters don't automatically transfer in. So what has worked for me whenever I have students signing up, because each year I have over 500 students because we're on a rotation. I have a 7.5-week rotation. Every 7.5 weeks, I get new students. So if I was manually rostering all of these students, that would take forever. So I have my students self-sign up. Well, all I have to do is go in and create the class. I give them the code and they can sign up. They're 7th graders. They know how to do that. One tip that I would definitely give you is give them a configuration of how you want them to set their username and their password if you choose to have them self-sign up. Otherwise, you're going to have some random names that you're going to have to go in and change. Also, they will forget what they said 30 minutes after they've said it. And then you're going to spend the next half of the class going in and manually resetting all of these kids' passwords and when they forget it. So if you give them a configuration, and that way you can post it around your room, like I have them do last name and then last 3 digits of their student ID number as a username. That way, when they forget, I can be like, oh, hey, last name, last 3 digits. They can go right in there. And then I have them do a set configuration on their password. So I can just remind them of that. So I don't spend all of my time resetting passwords. I learned that the hard way, the very first time. So that's a good tip for if you have them self-sign up. But the lessons, since I only have my kids for a few weeks, I don't usually get through all of them in the Intro to Coding mission. So I go in order but I kind of pick and choose, like I may skip one here so I have more time and one here. I go with whatever works for my kids at that time. And it may look different in each rotation. This rotation, I might be doing these lessons. I might go ahead and throw it in. If I have a group of kids who are a little bit more advanced with computer science, I just kind of adjust based on the kids that I have. But most of the online interactive lessons, they're about 20 minutes long. And some days we may do 2 of the online interactive lessons because I have a 46-minute class period. They may do that independently. And then the very next day we come back and we talk about it as a class discussion. Sometimes they do the lesson independently, then we talk about it immediately. And then sometimes we may just go along with it together based on the needs of my class. You know, we're very good at differentiating and monitoring, adjusting based on the needs of our kids. And Learning Blade allows me to do that. It's got questions in the interactive lessons and we can stop and we can talk about those, or some for my kids that are a little bit more advanced, they can work at their own pace. So that has been great for all levels of my kids. Another thing that I really love about the interactive lessons is there's a read aloud option. My school houses our district ESL sheltered program. So I have many students whose home language is not English, and they may be emerging learners. And so that read aloud gives them that accommodation right there built into the program. And it also is great for my struggling readers as well. For when they are working independently, they can just put their headphones on and they can follow along as it's got the read aloud on there. So that has been great for my kids. Also, some of the programs that are linked in with Learning Blade, like code.org and VEX Code, you can change the language. So if you're like me and you have a lot of students whose English is not their first language, you have that option in there as well. Another tip that makes things a lot easier for me is when we go to those sites that are outside of Learning Blade, like VEX Code, if I'm only going to be using it for that one lesson, that one day, I don't have them create an account in there. Because again, they're gonna forget. And I don't want to spend all of my class time setting up accounts that the kid's gonna forget that I'm not gonna need beyond that day anyway. So we just go along with the free version that will let you go in as a guest on that. So you may be wondering, how do I see their work if they're not creating an account on some of these outside ones? I can see their work great within the Learning Blade platform because I can pull a report that shows all of how long they've been on that, what their score was, things like that. But these outside ones like code.org, VEX Code, Pencil Code, things like that, what I do is have them take a screenshot of their work. And there's a place whenever you create your class that you can put in your URL for your shared folder where students can load their screenshot of their work like that in there into that folder. What has worked for me is I have a Google Doc that is just a standard screenshot template. It looks the same on every assignment. It reminds them how to take a screenshot and they paste their completed project, that screenshot, into that Google Doc. The reason I do that is because whenever I put their assignment in Schoology or in Google Classroom, I can also attach that template in there. That way, when they put that screenshot in, it's already attached to that specific assignment to that specific student, which makes it super easy when I'm going in to grade things. I can just go in, click on the assignment, and put my grade in right there. I don't have to go back and look at a folder or things like that. So that has just been what has worked best for me. But the screenshots are fantastic for seeing completed work on that.
Thanks so much.
But
Bethany.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure
No,
that we
you're good.
have time to get to the plan that we've created for CS
Yes.
Ed Week. So we so much appreciate your voice and all the unique tips and tricks for how you've been able to use it. Was there any one last thing you didn't get to say before I can share our plan?
No, that is it. I encourage you, if you're not using Learning Blade, to really jump in and get involved with it because it's fantastic.
Perfect. Thanks so much. as Bethany said, she has free access to Learning Blade because of her statewide contract. These are all of the states that you can get free access to Learning Blade in as well, in addition to Arkansas. Maybe Tony or Josh can put the link in the chat to bring everybody there. So anyone who's on the call is like, okay, yeah, I already know about Learning Blade. I know Intro to Coding. I've used this before, but what can I do for CS Ed Week? That's what we're going to end on. But first, I also wanted to show some of the new things that have come out this year that maybe you haven't seen yet. So in the spring, we launched some robotics lessons for Finch robots. So those are produced by BirdBrain. All of the Tennessee schools have Finch robots. There's a loaner program in South Carolina, and BirdBrain actually has its own loaner program if you're looking to use some physical computing devices. And then over the summer, we made a lot of updates to the Intro to Coding course that Bethany was talking about. And specifically, we have 2 brand new online lessons. We identified a gap between the online lessons in Learning Blade and the programming activities. And we just wanted to make sure that students were really set up for success to be able to do the programming activities. So we made a new lesson about repetition and looping concepts in coding, as well as a new online lesson about conditionals and kind of if-then statements and conceptual ideas about how a program decides what to do based upon certain conditions. So those are 2 new online lessons in the Intro to Coding course. And we also have another new offline activity. So we noticed in section 7, which is our cybersecurity section, there wasn't any classroom activities. So we added in an offline activity about encryption, where students make a Caesar cipher and they do multiple layers of encrypting different messages and talk about how that works in the context of cybersecurity. So those are the new pieces. And then what we have created for anyone who's looking to use Learning Blade for CS Ed Week is a 5-day plan to expose students to 5 of the computer science careers that we have inside of Learning Blade. So I'm going to hop out of my slides and go to the Google Doc that we have for this, and I'll put this link in the chat so you all have access to it, and we will email it out along with the recording as well. But for those of you who may not know, CS Ed Week is really just a time worldwide to dedicate for students to learn about computer science, get exposed to computer science. And this year's theme is impacts of computing. So both the positive and negative effects of how computing, has transformed our lives and everything that it plays a role in. So maybe you have 5 days and you can do each career every single day: computer programmer, database administrator, information security analyst, user interface, user experience designer, and the web developer. If you don't have 5 days, and maybe you're only going to celebrate CS Ed Week just one day, you can have your students choose maybe a career that they're interested in. So all of these teammate links bring you to a PDF of our papercraft figure, which is just a fun physical representation the students can have about the lessons that they've learned about, so they can look back on what they did during CS Ed Week. You fold them up on the back of the head as a description of what that career is. And then in the row below, all of these links to the online lessons is exactly kind of how Bethany describes it. It's really easy to link to your Google Classroom, to link to your Canvas. These are direct links that would bring a student to the online lesson about what these careers are. So you can copy it and post it. When you click on the link, it does bring you to our login page. I'm previously logged in. So if it brings them to the login page, a student would just log in, and then this would just happen on my screen, what happened for them. Once they log in, it brings them to the lesson that they were linked to. So these are brief, 15-ish minutes where they read, they have the audio reader Bethany mentioned, there's some videos about these careers, questions.
As persistently.
about the video, and as they go through, they like kind of see more academic skills that are used in each of the careers, and that initial exposure of what is an information security analyst or what is a user interface designer. So those two pieces are a really easy, quick introductory way to celebrate CS Ed Week. And then I have also linked some activity lessons to correspond with each of the 5 careers as well. So the Caesar Cipher activity I just mentioned ties really well with information security analysts. Wireframing is a sketching out process for where students can sketch out like what they would want an app to look like and thinking about the design. So all of these links bring you to a Dropbox file of our PDF lesson plans for these activities, but they can all be found in your Learning Blade account on the teacher resources page. So some of the others, the web developer, creating a mobile app, that is a coding activity that brings you to code.org, but the lesson plan will walk you through how to use it. This probably is the one that is the most involved, so just so you're aware, if you don't have a lot of coding experience, this one does get a little bit into JavaScript. But for the computer programmer, we've got a Treasure Ahoy activity, which is an offline maze game where students write out an algorithm about how to navigate around different obstacles. So all of these links bring you to the PDFs, but you can also find them in your teacher accounts inside of Learning Blade. And then the middle column, those links are student links for the student lessons. So if you try to click them as a teacher, you might not get there directly, but just to show you where they are in our Intro to Computer Careers mission. So if you can't get the links to work, then you can go to Intro to Computer Careers, and these are the 5 careers for the 5 days that we have. So that is my very brief, fast, high-level overview of what our CS Ed Week plan is. And I thank you guys for tuning in and joining us. One of my favorite statistics as a former computer science teacher is that students, after using Learning Blade, have a 55% increase in interest in a computer science career, which I think is so awesome. And I think one of the main goals of celebrating CS Ed Week and giving students that exposure. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and I do have to hop out to another meeting, but I'm gonna have Tony and Josh answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Jenny, very much. We appreciate that.